It's another restless night. Your body is still, but your thoughts keep moving, softly, persistently, looping through things you didn't expect to think about at 200 a.m. Maybe it's something simple, a memory you didn't ask for. Maybe it's something heavier, a silence between you and someone you miss. Or maybe it's nothing at all, just the hum of being alive in a world that rarely slows down. Whatever it is, I'm glad you're here. This space is for the tired, the wired, the wide-awake souls just trying to rest. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to sleep just yet. You just need to be. And maybe wander somewhere else for a little while. So tonight, let's go way back, not centuries, not even millennia. Let's slip back tens of thousands of years before kings, before clocks, before writing, back to the firelit world of early humans. And let's ask a simple, impossible question. What did falling in love look like back then? You open your eyes. It's early morning. The air is cool and wet, the kind that clings to skin and hair. You're wrapped in a fur blanket, still half asleep beside a dying fire. Smoke curls upward. You stretch slowly. Your bones ache a little, but you're alive. And across the camp, someone is watching you, not threatening, not hostile, just curious. You've noticed them before, the way they share food, the way they always sit near you, even when there's space elsewhere, the way they laugh, not loudly but honestly, the way they touched your wrist yesterday, just for a second too long while handing you a stone tool. You don't speak the way people do now. No sonnets, no texts, no carefully punctuated letters. But there is language. A glance, a gesture, a carefully placed token, a shell, a feather, a bit of quartz tucked beside your sleeping mat. This is what courtship looks like here. Not a grand confession, not a song, but quiet persistence, bringing you the best part of the meat, walking beside you on the long trail, even when there's no need, helping patch your broken sling, mending your hide shoes without being asked. It's not flashy, but it's unmistakable. They've chosen you. Or maybe they're hoping you'll choose them too. You pretend not to notice, but you do. You shift a little closer when, sitting near the fire, you offer the last piece of roasted root. You leave behind a carved bit of wood, nothing useful, but it made you think of them. And in this way, slowly, quietly, something forms. A rhythm, a bond. Not everyone understands. Some in the camp think it's silly. Others are watching perhaps with envy. But no one says anything. They've seen this before. Two people moving around each other like stars. Cautious, warming, inevitable. If this voice is helping you feel just a little calmer, you're welcome to like or subscribe. Only if it brings ease. No pressure, just presence. So, tell me, where are you tonight? Lying on your back, staring at the ceiling in the dark, curled under a blanket, with one foot poking out, hoping your thoughts will quiet down soon, or just listening, not for answers, but for something soft to keep you company. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to take up space in the night. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders drop. Let your body remember what it feels like to be instead of do. Tonight we'll sit beside the ancient fire. We'll watch two people learn each other, not with words, but with care. Because even before we could write love poems, we still knew how to fall. Let's begin. Hey guys, tonight we're curling up beside a smoky fire on the edge of a prehistoric clearing where mammoth bones crack in the heat and shadows flicker like ancient ghosts. You're not wearing much fur, draped over your shoulders, smeared ochre on your arms, and a necklace of bone beads that clatter softly when you move. Your feet are calloused, your hands stained with berry juice and ash. You're tired, a little sore, and a lot hungry. And then you see them. Across the flames, half hidden in the smoke, sitting with their group, gnawing on a roasted root, and glancing up just once. At you. Not long, not obvious, just long enough. Your heart, if you could call it that, since you haven't named it yet, beats differently. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The fire is central, and so is everything else. You eat, cook, sleep, clean, fight, sing, well, grunt, melodically, all within eyeshot of this fire. So when someone across it looks at you, that matters. Eyes are currency. Glances are like promises carved in air. And this one lingers. You glance away. Because even without spoken words, there's a language here. And it starts with not being too eager. You pluck at your furs, pretend to be more interested in a burnt tuber. But the heat you feel isn't from the flames. Historians still argue about what love even meant in prehistory. Was it instinct? Was it chemistry? Was it emotional or purely strategic? We don't have love letters or poems or diary entries scrawled in charcoal, but we have bones. We have burials. We have shared tools, joint graves, and the gentle way one person sometimes arranged another's body before placing stones over it. That says something, even if we can't quite name it. And tonight that unnamed thing is beginning. You keep your distance, but you move closer to their side of the circle, slowly, as if by accident. You comment on the char of the mammoth meat. Okay, you grunt disapprovingly. That's about as close as it gets to flirtation here. But still they look at you again. One quirky tidbit. Some archaeologists believe that early human groups had a kind of unspoken social protocol for courtship based not on conversation, but on mimicry. You copy how they sit. You echo their grunt. You crack a nut the same way. And over time, this strange little mirroring game becomes its own kind of language. You are like me, it says. You could belong with me. You lean back. Your hands idle now, trace spirals in the dirt, not symbols, just shapes. But still they glance at them, then at you. That counts. Later, when the flames have burned low and the old ones are snoring in their furs, you glance up and find them watching the sky. Their brow is furrowed. Their hands are still. So you sit nearby, not too close, just enough. You both say nothing, but you're breathing in rhythm now, and that's the start. No declarations, no dramatic gestures, just a glance, a stillness shared, a space held quietly between the two of you as the wind stirs the smoke and the night presses in like a great dark ocean. And if this were a story told much later, someone would say, it began with a look. And they wouldn't be wrong. The air smells like smoke, damp moss, and mammoth fat. Not exactly a love potion, but it's what you have. The fires are down to orange embers, now flickering soft light over sleeping bodies draped in hide and woven grass mats. You're still awake. So are they. You pretend not to notice, but you do. They've shifted their sleeping mat, closer to the edge, closer to you. Not much, but enough. Just enough to make your pulse thrum a little faster in your chest. You bury your face in your fur wrap. It smells like the old boar you skinned last month and never quite cleaned right. You'll fix that tomorrow, maybe. But tonight you're preoccupied because someone noticed you. Someone kept noticing. And in a world where most days blur into a repetition of hunger scraping hides and dodging wild animals, that kind of noticing matters. You curl up and try to sleep. You don't. Because in prehistoric times, falling in love wasn't a candlelit dinner with violins. It was surviving long enough to stand near someone you liked without being eaten by a saber-toothed cat. It was a slow, silent ritual of proximity, of noticing back. Historians still argue whether prehistoric courtship leaned more toward pair bonding like modern humans or resembled mating behavior in other primates. Did relationships last? Did people stay faithful? Did they even understand faithful the way we do? There's no solid consensus, but tooth-wear analysis on some ancient human remains suggests some couples shared food regularly over long stretches of time. So, domesticity happened, at least a little. You yawn and roll over. Someone shifts. Nearby, it's them. They're not looking at you, just at the fire, but they're closer than before. Close enough that you can hear their breath, smell the charcoal and wild onion on their skin. It's not unpleasant. You reach toward the coals, stir one absently with a stick. They notice, offer you a chunk of smoked fish from their pouch. You accept. That's as close to a love song as you're going to get tonight. You take a bite. It's salty, chewy, and surprisingly tender. You nod. They nod back. And just like that, your orbit shifts. You're part of each other's gravity now. The others might not notice yet, but they will. The clan always notices. Everything you do here is done in front of others. Nothing is private. Not the way you cut bark, not the way you flinch when your shoulder aches, not the way your eyes linger on someone a little longer than they should. The next morning you gather roots. You make sure to offer them the better half of your haul. They accept again, silently. And this time they smile. It's brief, faint, but unmistakable. Quirky tidbit. There's evidence that Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens decorated themselves with pigments, red ochre, black charcoal, even crushed flower petals. Not just for ritual, but perhaps for attraction. Think of it as proto-makeup, or maybe just an early attempt to say, hey, I'm here. I'm worth noticing. You begin noticing more. How they sit legs tucked under, carving wood with careful hands. How they hum quietly when cleaning fish. How they touch their chest when something makes them laugh, like they're trying to hold the sound in place. You begin mimicking their movements, not on purpose, but gradually. Your laugh echoes theirs. Your pace matches theirs. It's not strategy. It's instinct. That's what early humans did. They mirrored the ones they wanted to connect with. Long before love languages, there was simply acting like the person you liked. And they notice. They start doing it too. You both begin reaching for the same stone, the same stick. You both smile and pretend you weren't paying attention. But you were. Always. That night when the fire is high and someone started that rhythm game with sticks on bark, you both end up sitting side by side. Close, but not touching. Your elbows brush. Neither of you pulls away. There are no words. Not really. But there is warmth. Shared glances. A slice of dried root passed quietly from one hand to another. And, for now, that's enough. Because prehistoric love doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in the moments between hunger and cold, in the pauses, in the gifts that aren't asked for, in the silence shared between two people who realize, without words, that they'd rather face tomorrow's hunt, tomorrow's storm, tomorrow's fire. Together, you wake before the others. The sky is still dark, a heavy indigo pressing against the canopy of low-hanging clouds. Somewhere in the distance, an animal calls out a low rolling groan that might be a giant deer or something worse. You don't move. Not yet. You're still warm beneath your fur wrap, the fire beside you. Now nothing but pale embers nestled in black ash. And there they are, still asleep. Their form is curled toward the fire, face half buried in the crook of their arm hair, tousled one leg, kicked free of the sleeping hide. You watch them breathe, slow, even, alive. There's something soft about them, something that makes your chest feel strange, tight, protective. You don't have a word for it. No one does. But maybe one day someone will carve it on stone or whisper it into the dark or sing it into the ears of a child by another fire, another night. For now you sit up quietly and stretch. You step away from the sleeping circle, careful not to wake the snorer 3 furs over. You pass the drying rack, where someone left a fish half smoked. You head for the river, with your hands still tingling from the dream you were having, something about running and falling and warm hands pulling you back up. You wash your face with cold water, splash some on the back of your neck. It shocks you into full awareness. Today will be a hard one. It always is. You gather your bundle of tools, a stone blade, a few woven cords, the digging stick you carved from driftwood and bound with sinew. You're heading to the root fields today, your clan's informal name for the nearby patch of earth that often yields tubers if you're lucky, and snakes if you're not. You work quietly, carefully, but not alone, because an hour later, they're there beside you, kneeling in the soil, hands just as dirty. They don't say anything, just nod at your pile of roots larger than yesterday's. You nod back. Later, when you return to camp, they walk beside you, still not speaking, but the silence between you has shifted. It's companionable now, shared, like wool wrapped around both your shoulders. That night you eat together. Someone passes a bowl of roasted roots and strips of dried meat. You both reach at the same time. Their fingers brush yours. They don't pull away this time. Your heart stutters, then steadies. You give them the larger piece. They give you a grin that crinkles the corners of their eyes. This is how it works. Not all at once. Not with a declaration, or a question, or a carved rock that says, "Be mine." Just a slow weaving, day after day. A tighter knot, each time you choose each other again. Historians still argue how mating worked among early humans. Were bonds temporary, seasonal, lifelong? Did children stay with their mothers? Did fathers help raise them? The evidence is contradictory. Some bones suggest pair-bonded adults buried together. Others suggest wide social mixing. It's hard to say. The records aren't ink on paper. They're scratches in stone fire pits, teeth marks on bones. But the feeling that stays. You remember how they waited for you when your ankle twisted last week? How they stood between you and the angry wild dog that wandered too close? How they brought you a strip of birch bark with a dull spiral traced into it for no reason at all? That wasn't necessity. That was care. One quirky tidbit. In a site found in northern Spain, archaeologists uncovered a grave shared by two individuals, buried with joint offerings, arms folded together, one with their fingers touching the other's rib cage. They dated from 15,000 years ago. One was male, one female. But what mattered wasn't gender. It was that they were placed that way, on purpose, tenderly. Someone wanted them together, even in death. Back in your camp, someone coughs. An elder shuffles to the fire, muttering about how the wood's damp again. You poke the embers, add a dry stick from your stash. They sit beside you. You feel them before you see them. They settle beside you without ceremony. Hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder. They don't look at you, you don't look at them. But you both smile, faintly. You start humming, low, almost tuneless. They hum along. And in the warmth, in the smoke, in the slow, sacred hum of this ordinary evening, your bond strengthens. without words, without touch, just presence. And presence is everything here. There is no priest to bless you, no band to play, no witness to document the first moment. But it happened. It's happening still. In each glance, in each bite shared, in each little decision not to pull away. Love in your world is this bringing back more roots than needed. Letting someone else take the warmer spot near the fire. Pausing your work because they stumbled behind you. Sitting silently while the sky changes color. And choosing again and again to sit beside the same person each night. You go to sleep curled near them, but not touching. Close enough, though, that if either of you reached out, you'd find the other's hand waiting. You don't reach tonight, not yet. But the space between you is shrinking, and maybe tomorrow it'll be gone entirely. You wake to birdsong, not the gentle trill of tiny feathered things from fairy tales, but a hoarse squawking chorus of half-frozen birds declaring war on the dawn. Your eyes open slowly. The light is cold and blue, just barely creeping over the eastern ridge. Your back aches from sleeping on packed earth. Your mouth tastes like ash and roasted tuber. But you're not thinking about any of that because they're still asleep beside you. And sometime during the night, without ceremony or noise or permission, your hands found each other, still clasped. You stare at the joined fingers, dirt-lined and calloused, gently tangled together like roots. Neither of you moved away, and that feels like a vow. You stay like that for a while, breathing in rhythm, watching the morning fog shift over the camp. No one else is awake, not yet. And that's a gift. Because even though nothing has been spoken, not in any language, you have everything is understood. The others might not see it, or they might pretend not to. Either way, something's changed. This bond is no longer just yours. It will belong to the group now, too. That's the price of togetherness here. Mainstream historical fact, early human relationships were not only emotional, but communal. Mating pairs often required group approval, sometimes subtle, sometimes explicit. In some hunter-gatherer societies, pairings influenced food sharing, childcare, sleeping arrangements, and even territory rights. So, a union wasn't just about two people. It was about everyone else accepting that union. And sometimes they didn't. You know that well enough. Not all eyes are kind in your camp. There's one, his name is Brog, maybe, or something like it. You don't keep names the way modern people do, but he watches. He was watching before your fingers found each other, watching when they smiled at you during the flint napping yesterday, watching now from across the fire pit, pretending to chew while his eyes burn holes into your back. You feel it. So do they. Later that day, while gathering kindling, they say quietly, "He'll try something." You nod, not because you agree, but because it doesn't matter. If you do, it's still true. You're not the strongest. You're clever, Sure, you can make a fire faster than most, and your traps are the reason meat still hits the camp stones. But Brog is built like a boulder. He once snapped a rabbit's neck just by holding it too tightly. And now he's jealous because they chose you. Quirky tidbit. Some anthropologists believe that in prehistoric communities, social standing could be fluid, but personal conflicts over mates were often resolved through physical dominance or structured competitions. These weren't always violent. Sometimes they were song duels, sometimes games of strength, but sometimes they were just fights, quiet, brutal, and brief. You sharpen your knife later that night, not because you want to fight, because you might not get a choice. They sit beside you. Their hand brushes yours like a reassurance or a thank you, or maybe a goodbye just in case. You hope it's not. You stay up longer than usual. The fire burns lower. The camp settles. The elder snores in rhythm. The youngest in the group starts crying in their sleep, and their mother shushes them gently, murmuring something that almost sounds like a song. And still you wait. Then footsteps, heavy, careless, close. You don't even look. Just rise slowly, knife in hand, body loose, but alert. Brog stops just beyond the ring of light. He doesn't speak, but his meaning is loud. He takes a step forward. You take one too. You don't want to fight. You're not a fighter, but you're also not giving this up, because for once in your life, someone chose you, not because of strength or status or supplies, but because of you. You stare at him across the fire, and then they stand too. They walk between you, not touching either of you, not saying anything, just standing, present. And Brog stops, because this isn't a game he can win with fists. This is choice, and the choice wasn't his. He leaves. You don't cheer, you just breathe. Slow, deep, shaky. Historians still argue how much agency prehistoric individuals, especially women, really had in choosing their mates. Some suggest they were treated like resources. Others argue the opposite, that social flexibility allowed for greater autonomy, especially in smaller mobile bands. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between. But tonight they chose. And you were chosen. And that means something more than you ever expected. Later, by the fire, you sit together, hands still joined, no words, just fire, smoke, a rustle of fur, and the soft kind of silence that settles when fear lifts just slightly off your chest. You press your forehead to theirs, not because it means anything formally, but because it means everything to you. This isn't a ceremony. It's not a vow. There are no feathers, no chants, no painted stones, just two people, tired, dirty, quiet, and no longer alone. There's a rhythm to the days now. You wake, you eat, you walk together to gather roots or check traps. You sit side by side during the skinning, the sorting, the tool repair. You eat together, again passing food without fanfare. At night you curl beneath the same hide. No one says anything, but everyone knows. And that's the difference. This is what passes for official in your world. Not an announcement, not a feast, just quiet consistency. A pattern that becomes familiar, so familiar that no one questions it. You and they have become a pair, bonded not by law but by routine, not by ceremony but by presence. Still, there are days you wonder, is this enough? Because love, even here, is hungry, and not just for meat. Sometimes you want more than shared tasks and exchanged food. You want to understand what they feel. You want a way to name the thing that's been building like moss between your ribs. But your language doesn't stretch that far. Not yet. So you carve. It starts with a stone. Nothing special, just a flat gray piece you found near the river. You scratch a rough symbol into it, a stick figure. 2 dots for eyes, a hand held out, another figure nearby, crude but unmistakable. You leave it beside their sleeping mat. You don't explain. The next night there's something in your place, a shard of antler hollowed slightly with a woven grass cord looped through the end. You don't know what it is, but it's beautiful, and it's yours. That's how the conversation goes now. Not with words, but with offerings. Small things, thoughtful things. A berry tucked beside a drinking shell, a well-napped flake, a smear of ochre behind the ear. It's clumsy and tender and real. Mainstream historical fact, while writing hadn't developed yet in prehistoric times, symbolic communication did exist. Carvings, etchings, personal adornments, and even patterns in pigment all served as ways to convey meaning. Some of the earliest portable art, like the famed Venus figurines, may have had personal, emotional, or courtship-related significance, or they may have been something else entirely. Historians still argue about that, but this feels sacred. They wear the antler charm now, not around their neck, but tied to the twine belt around their waist. You notice it swaying as they move. You catch yourself staring. You're not the only one who sees it. The elder woman's scarred hands, stiff knees, sharp eyes, glances between the two of you. She grunts something under her breath, then hands you an armful of dry reeds and says flatly, "Time to weave a basket for 2. You almost drop the reeds. She knows. They all do. And somehow that makes it more real. There's no official status here. No carved nameplate, but suddenly you're part of a unit. Someone asks what you two found today. Someone else says, let them sit together. At night, food portions arrive in shared bowls. Someone even gives you an extra piece of smoked hair, because the clan, in its quiet, prehistoric way, has accepted your bond, and that feels bigger than any fire. Quirky tidbit. In some early human burial sites, double graves have been found, 2 individuals interred together, surrounded by shared objects. One especially notable example from Sungir, Russia, includes 2 adolescents buried side by side with matching ivory jewelry. The care with which they were buried suggests not only affection, but the group's endorsement of that connection, whatever it may have been. You think about that late one evening as you and they sit beside the fire. The sparks spiral upward, catching in the black sky like brief, vanishing stars. They're weaving a pouch from dry grass. You're mending a leather wrap. And you realize you do this forever, this simple, quiet rhythm, not out of obligation, out of wanting. You want to be the person they turn to when the cold sets in. You want to hear their hum as they gut fish. You want to walk beside them as the world changes, leaf by leaf, season by season. But just as you're thinking this, someone stirs the pot, literally. Someone else new to the camp, a cousin from the south, has started watching them, the way you once did. You notice. Of course you do. They offer meat. They hover at the fire. They sit a little too close when there's plenty of room elsewhere. It's not a fight, yet, but it makes your blood move differently. Your chest tightens. Your hands clench. Not because you own them, you don't, but because the world has never given you much. And the idea of losing this, of someone taking what was offered to you so freely, it's unbearable. That night you don't sleep much. You stare at the stars. You listen to the wind. You wonder, is love still love when fear seeps into it? In the morning, they bring you a gift. It's nothing grand, just a clump of fresh mint tucked into your furs. But they press it into your hand, look you full in the face, and say your name. Soft, certain. You don't say anything. You just breathe, because that's all you needed to hear. They chose you. Again. And in this world of cold earth and hard labor and countless things you can't control, that choice is everything. The days shorten. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just a slow creep of darkness that begins earlier each evening. The shadows stretch longer across the clearing. The morning frost lingers later, nipping at your toes through worn leather wrappings. The animals change too. Fewer birds, more silence. The squirrels hoard. The deer grow leaner and harder to track. Winter is coming. You can feel it in your bones before the wind even shifts. And with winter comes the reshuffling. Tents are moved. Beds are consolidated. Resources counted. Every member of the clan becomes inventory, what they can carry, what they can hunt, how much they eat. It's not cruel. It's survival. The lean times have no patience for sentiment. So, of course, that's when your relationship becomes official, not by anyone's declaration, not with a feast, just a new sleeping arrangement. One morning, without warning, your furs are moved beside theirs. There's no question, no protest. It's done. You are now a unit. There are small benefits. A larger sleeping hide, shared rations, tasks that complement your flint working paired with their fire starting, your hunting balanced by their storing. Two people managing one life together. But with officialness comes exposure. Your bond, once sweet and private, is now practical, logistical, and visible. People comment, some good-natured, some not. You eat more. Now one of the younger men jokes, getting soft with company. Another mutters less kindly, it shouldn't bother you, but it does. Because love in its early stages is delicate. It doesn't like being handled too roughly by others. It bruises easy. You keep your head down. You do your work. You hold their hand when no one's looking. But still there's tension. It comes to a head when the new cousin, yes, that one, starts bringing offerings to the group. Extra mushrooms. 2 hares caught in a clever snare. Gifts for the community, sure. But everyone can see where their eyes keep drifting. And your partner sees it too. They don't say anything. They just tighten the strap on their pouch and walk away. You follow. You find them by the river. Shoulders tense, hands submerged in the icy water. They don't turn around. You sit beside them. Still they don't look at you. After a long silence, they speak just one sentence. I don't like how they look at you. Your heart stumbles because you thought it was the other way around, that you were the one watching for wandering glances. But it turns out, love isn't a one-way ache. You both feel it. The wanting, the worry. You take their hand. You tell them awkwardly, softly, that it's not about who brings more food or who looks the strongest. It's not even about who's most liked by the elders. It's about who shared the fish that time you burned your fingers, who found the tiny green stone because they knew you liked the way it glowed, who hums while gutting trout, who pressed mint into your hand and said your name like it was a song. They don't answer, but they don't pull away either. You sit there until the sun disappears. That night you sleep closer than usual, under one hide, skin to skin, not out of passion, but out of comfort, of warmth, of knowing. Mainstream historical fact, some anthropologists believe that prehistoric pair bonds grew strongest during the cold months, not just because of shared heat, but because surviving winter required cooperation. Emotional closeness became practical. The earliest stirrings of what we might now call domestic life, shared responsibilities, co-parenting, food division, all gained momentum when survival forced closeness. You begin doing more things together. You butcher side by side. You prepare snares, check each other's knots. You split tasks with silent ease, and others begin to notice. Not just that you're together, that you work, well, you're efficient, reliable, a new kind of powerful, not loud like Brog, not impressive like the cousin, but solid. The clan starts assigning you joint duties. The elder trusts you both to repair the wind flap on the communal tent. A mother asks you to carry her child across the stream. The hunters leave a share of their kill in your shared basket without comment. It feels good, stable, quirky tidbit. In some prehistoric societies based on burial and tool use patterns, there's evidence that couples became productive units, not just emotional ones. Their usefulness to the group made their bond valuable. Love became an asset, a shared labor agreement that happened to also include sleeping close and whispering stories into the dark. One evening, as the fire flickers low, your partner leans against you. You know they say they've stopped bringing mushrooms. You blink. It takes you a second to realize they're talking about the cousin. And it's true. No more gifts. No more hovering. Just distance. Respect. Acknowledgement. Your chest feels light. You nudge them gently. They smile. And for the first time you allow yourself to believe this might last. Not because you're lucky, but because you've earned this. Both of you. Every day in a world that does not make room for softness, you've made space anyway. And somehow that's the most radical thing of all. You don't remember when you started thinking of them as home. Not just someone you liked. Not just someone who slept beside you. But someone whose absence makes you ache in your throat. One morning they leave before sunrise to track a wounded boar. You wake up reaching for them and touch only fur. The fire's gone out. Their warmth is gone too. And for a moment, just a beat, you feel the old fear, the one that used to hum in your chest before they ever chose you. The fear of being left. You shake it off. Try to anyway. They'll be back. You keep busy sorting herbs, reshaping broken tools, listening to the elder woman complain about the smoke vent again. But all the while your ears are tuned for footsteps, for that low voice, for the sound of their breath returning. They don't come back by midday, not by evening. Someone says they probably stayed out to make camp. It's cold. Someone else nods. But your gut twists. Because this is the world you live in. People don't always come back. And love in this world has a price. Mainstream historical fact: in prehistoric societies, life expectancy was low. Many people didn't live past 30. Injury, infection, childbirth, and accidents were everyday risks. Forming deep emotional bonds in such a fragile setting was both comforting and dangerous. To lose someone wasn't just a heartbreak. It could mean losing a provider, a protector, a partner in survival. You try to sleep. You fail. The next morning you go looking. You don't tell anyone. Just gather what you need. Knife dried meat, a skin of water, and slip away into the trees. The frost crunches beneath your feet. The air burns in your nose. You follow a vague trail, scuffed leaves, bent reeds, a splash of blood that could be boar or not. Hours pass. Then a noise. You freeze. It's not a bear, not a wolf. It's a groan. Human. You find them beneath a thicket of hollyleg, twisted face, pale eyes half closed. They tried to climb a ridge, slipped on ice, hit their head. They don't recognize you at first. But then their eyes focus, and you see it, that flicker, that tiny smile. You drop to your knees. They're alive. You laugh, half sob. It's not graceful. Your nose runs. Your voice cracks, but you don't care. You wrap their arm around your shoulders. You help them up, slow and clumsy. You walk together, step by step, back toward the camp. Quirky tidbit: Some prehistoric shelters, particularly in cold regions, show signs of being modified for the injured or elderly. Widened entrances, softer bedding layers, even signs of prolonged care. These small adjustments suggest empathy and even what we might call love through service and physical support. The journey back takes all day. You speak little, but they lean on you. That's enough. At camp, the elder fusses, the healer mutters, and everyone hovers. But you are the one they reach for, the one they call for when the pain is sharp, the one whose name they whisper when sleep won't come. You don't leave their side, not even to eat. Someone brings you stew. Another drops a fresh hide beside your tent, and no one says it, but you feel it. This love has survived something, not just a cold night in the woods, but the test that breaks many bonds, the test of injury, the test of need. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans understood the concept of marriage as we do today. Some point to burial practices and social patterns as evidence of long-term pair bonds. Others argue that relationships were more fluid, that mating bonds shifted with seasons or utility. But everyone agrees on one thing: caring for someone through pain is as ancient as fire. Weeks pass. They recover. Slowly. You help them walk. You help them chew. You bathe their leg in warm water and sing badly because it makes them laugh. And they start calling you something new, not your name. A word that means mine, not in the possessive way, in the claimed way, as in my shelter, my fire, and my person. It's clumsy, sweet. You start using it too, not all the time, just when it matters, when the frost is cruel, when the days feel too short, when their hand finds yours in sleep and squeezes once gently. Love isn't loud here. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And you're learning to listen. By the time spring returns, you've almost forgotten what green looks like. But then, one morning, it appears not in a grand cinematic flourish, but in tiny stubborn ways. A blade of grass pushing through thawed mud, a bud on a branch so small you think you imagined it. The river begins to sing again, higher, faster, full of meltwater. The air loses its bite. Everything begins to soften, including you. Their leg still aches, especially when it rains, but they walk now, slowly, carefully. You walk with them, not because they need help, well, sometimes they do, but because it feels wrong to be apart. Winter changed things. It sharpened your bond, tempered it like flint in the fire. You are no longer the new pair, the whispered about couple. You're something older now, wiser, seasoned. One evening, the elder approaches you with a question, not a request, a question. They ask if you and your partner would consider raising a child, not yours, an orphan, a girl of maybe 4 winters, wide-eyed and silent, whose parents died during the long cold. The question is quiet, delicate. There's no pressure, But you know it's not just about caretaking. It's about trust. The clan trusts you both, enough to give you something precious and terrifying. You say yes, because how could you not? You build a little sleeping spot beside your furs. You show her how to crack nuts and sort roots. She's shy at first, clinging to your partner like moss to bark, but slowly she warms, laughs, starts to hum when she eats. You catch her drawing little figures in the dirt stick creatures, holding hands under a sun made of lines. One of them has your hair. Your chest tightens. Mainstream historical fact, evidence from prehistoric graves shows not just adults and children buried together, but also signs of extended kinship care. In many groups, especially nomadic ones, child rearing was shared across the clan, with trusted pairs or elder women stepping in after parental loss. The idea of chosen family has much deeper roots than most people think. Suddenly everything changes, not in your relationship, in the group. The arrival of spring also means the arrival of strangers, visitors, trade parties, potential new members, and with them come new customs, new eyes, new risks. There's one man, tall, thin, with a bone pendant shaped like a crow, who watches your partner a little too closely. Not with hunger, with curiosity. One night he approaches them while you're tending the fire. They talk. You can't hear what's said, but you see how your partner shifts their body, crosses their arms, turns away. You want to intervene, but you don't. Later, when you ask, they shrug it off. He wanted to know how we chose each other. You frown. Why? They think we're strange. You blink. We are. They smile. But something in their expression lingers. A thought they're not sharing. You don't push. But it stays with you. Because love in its most vulnerable form is a question we keep answering. And sometimes the world makes us answer louder than we'd like. Quirky tidbit. In some prehistoric trade hubs, outsiders weren't just bringing goods. They brought stories, beliefs, norms. It's entirely possible that different groups had very different expectations around relationships, fidelity, and acceptable pairings. What passed as sweet in one clan might be seen as bizarre or even forbidden in another. Historians still argue whether prehistoric culture clashes ever led to breakups. You start watching too, not jealously, cautiously. You wonder what that man sees when he looks at you too. And then one evening, he's gone, vanished into the woods with the rest of his party. Just like that. No goodbye, just a colder air where he once stood. You think that's the end of it, but a few days later, a message comes. A token left near the river, wrapped in bark. Inside, a charm made of bone carved with your partner's symbol. An invitation, a suggestion, a test. You burn it, silently. They never ask what happened to it. And that silence is its own vow. Historians might never uncover every detail of prehistoric courtship. They'll debate tools, speculate on burials, analyze art for decades to come. but they'll never feel what you feel, that bone-deep certainty that love is something you carry, not something you perform. Spring deepens. The girl starts sleeping between you now. You joke that she snores louder than the wolves. She throws moss at you. You pretend to die dramatically. Your partner laughs so hard, they drop their dinner. And for a second, just one the whole world feels still. You sit back. Watch the smoke rise. You hold their hand. And you know, this is what love looks like. Not in books, not in stories, but here, in mud and moss and fire and silence. The girl calls you something new. It starts as a mispronunciation, your name, but with a wobble. It sticks. Everyone in the clan starts using it too. You laugh the first few times, then you stop laughing. Because it's not just funny. It's sweet. It means something. It means you've become a person with roots. You used to be one of many. Now you're part of a trio, a fire with 3 stones around it. Take one away and the whole pot topples. And even though she isn't yours by blood, she's yours in all the ways that matter. You notice how your partner braids her hair differently each morning, how they save the ripest berries for her, how she waits to eat until she sees you sit down. This is what a family looks like now. And yet, there's always a yet in a world like this, because summer means travel, and travel means decisions. The clan must move again further upriver, where fish are plentiful and the hills shelter deer. But it's not an easy path. Some of the elders are worried. There's talk of splitting up, forming 2 groups. Temporary, they say, just for the season. But temporary has a way of turning permanent, especially out here. Mainstream historical fact. Mobile, prehistoric groups often split into smaller bands during parts of the year to reduce pressure on resources. Archaeological evidence suggests these temporary splits sometimes turned into permanent divisions, especially after harsh winters conflict or major shifts in leadership. These separations were rarely dramatic, just slow fades. A visit that never happened, a reunion that never came. You and your partner are asked to go with the group moving north. It makes sense. You're good hunters. You're reliable. You nod. But the girl, she's been invited to stay with the other half of the clan. Her closest playmate, a boy her age, is staying. The healer thinks the air will be better for her lungs. You're told it's only for a moon or 2. But the second you hear it, your chest feels like it's caving in, because they've given you so much. And now they're asking you to give back. You sit with your partner that night, in silence. The girl's already asleep, one arm flung across your stomach like a scarf. They speak first. She should stay. You don't answer. She'll be safe, they say. Still, you don't answer. Because love in this world isn't just about choosing. It's about letting go. Eventually, you nod. But it doesn't feel like agreement. It feels like defeat. The next morning, she doesn't cry. She's excited. She hugs you so hard it knocks the wind out of your lungs. She doesn't know she's breaking your heart. She shouldn't have to. Quirky tidbit. In some prehistoric burial sites, there are tiny footprints next to adult graves, possibly from children who visited often. Whether ritual or routine, it suggests that bonds between adults and children were deep and lasting, even when they didn't share blood. Some tools were buried with symbols thought to represent shared life, not just shared genes. You and your partner travel north. The terrain is different. The trees are taller, the moss thicker, the air damp in your lungs. You set up camp near a wide bend in the river. There is more game here, but fewer smiles. You both go quiet. Not cold, just quiet. The kind of silence that isn't born from anger, but from missing someone so deeply it hollows you out. You talk about her sometimes, like she's just gone for the day. She'd love these frogs, your partner says, watching a puddle full of noisy little bodies. You nod. She'd want to name all of them, you say. They laugh. And it's the first laugh you've heard in days. Historians still argue whether prehistoric clans truly grasped long-term absence. With no written language and no concept of a letter, bonds had to survive through memory and ritual alone. The oral traditions of some cultures suggest storytelling was one way people held on to those who were far away, repeating names, recounting shared moments, keeping the shape of someone alive. You carve her name into bark. You trace it into the dirt. You whisper it before you sleep. And sometimes, only sometimes, you dream of her coming back, carrying a frog, laughing like she never left. Your partner reaches for you in those dreams. Always. And though your arms feel empty, your hands never are. You count the days in river stones, one for each morning you wake without her curled between you. You try not to think of it as a ritual, but it becomes one anyway, a tiny act of remembering. Every morning, after you check the snares, you find a stone smooth and round and add it to the pile beside your sleeping spot. Some are gray, some white. One is striped like a badger's tail. You don't pick favorites, but you know exactly how many are there. 43. By now, summer is full. The trees wear thick canopies. The air hums with insects. Every sound echoes. The river has calmed. Everything feels lazy, swollen, slow, even time. One night, while you're mending a broken net, your partner comes back from the hill with a piece of bark folded in half. Inside it, berries. Sweet, fresh, and underneath the berries, a small piece of cloth. You recognize the weave. It's from the girl's tunic. She sent it with a boy from the southern camp. Apparently she insisted. The message is clear, even without words. I'm okay. I remember you. I still belong to you. You don't cry. You do eat every single berry, very slowly. Mainstream historical fact: many prehistoric cultures used nonverbal tokens, like beads, knotted strings, painted stones, or distinctive woven threads as a way of sending messages across space and time. These objects weren't just decoration. They carried meaning, memory, emotional weight, and they helped people stay connected long before language was ever written down. You hold the cloth to your face. It smells like campfire and pine resin, and something soft that doesn't have a name. Your partner kisses your cheek without saying anything. You both sleep better that night. For a while, life feels stable again, predictable. You catch fish, you scrape hides, you sing a terrible song your partner insists is about owls, but sounds more like sneezing. You get by. And then, just like that, it's fall. The leaves change. The days shrink. The clan regathers. You walk toward the meeting spot with a bundle of smoked meat, a new fur cloak, and a stone that's been polished so many times it reflects your face. You're not sure what you expect, but what you get is her running full-speed, arms open, teeth bared in a huge grin, barreling into your knees and knocking you over completely. You land in the leaves with a grunt. She's heavier now, taller. But when she buries her face into your neck and whispers your name, the mispronounced one, still it's like no time has passed. Your partner falls to their knees beside you, holding you both. The three of you don't let go for a long, long time. Other people mill around, share food, start building fires, but your world stays small. 3 people, 1 reunion, quirky tidbit. Some anthropologists believe that prehistoric humans used seasonal festivals not just for trade or rituals, but as social glue. These gatherings allowed people to reconnect with distant kin, exchange gifts, and rekindle relationships, both romantic and familial. In a world where every journey was a gamble, these regular reunions may have been the emotional anchor that kept larger social networks alive. That night around the fire, she tells you about the frogs. She named 12 of them. She only caught 2. 1 bit her. She shows you the tiny scar like it's a medal of honor. You pretend to be horrified. Your partner offers her a bit of honeycomb and says, "For the brave hunter." She glows with pride. You feel full, not just of food, of everything. There's a weight that settles on your chest, but in a good way, like a warm stone on a winter night. A gravity that says this is real, this is ours, and it doesn't matter what the strangers think, or what the next season brings, or whether love in prehistoric times was common or rare. You have it, right now. And it's enough. Historians still argue whether prehistoric people truly loved in ways we'd recognize. Without written confessions or preserved vows, we rely on patterns, proximity wear on bones, objects in graves. But if you could bottle this moment the way the girl tugs on your hand, the way your partner's shoulder presses into yours, the way the fire crackles and throws gold across all your faces, you wouldn't need words. You'd just know. Later, as the camp settles and the stars begin to pulse above the trees, you lie down beside them both, 1 on either side. You're the middle of the nest now. You close your eyes, and for the first time in moons, you don't dream of anything missing. Only what's here. Only what's enough. It doesn't take long for the whispers to start. Not cruel, not loud, just there, like a draft under a door. A few of the newer arrivals' families from the southern forests, clans you don't recognize, begin asking questions. Who's responsible for the girl? Why does she sleep with both of you? Is this your real child? You hear it first from a cousin of your partner. Soft-spoken, hesitant. They're just curious, he says, avoiding your eyes. They've never seen this arrangement. You want to ask what this means, but you already know. Because even now, even here where people eat roots and hunt rabbits and sleep under the stars, there are rules. Not written ones, not carved in stone, but felt in the way people glance sideways, in the way they hesitate before handing you meat, in the way someone says you're friend instead of partner. It's not new. It's not unexpected, but it stings. Because you thought you'd reached the soft part of the world, the safe core, the quiet clearing. Turns out the clearing still has edges. Mainstream historical fact, while prehistoric groups were often fluid and adaptive, there's growing evidence that social cohesion required conformity to group norms. Burials and art suggest that some behaviors, like burial with a spouse or designated sleeping spaces, reflected not just preference, but expectation. Deviating from these norms could lead to exclusion, subtle or otherwise. Your partner shrugs it off at first. They'll get used to it, they say. But then someone moves their bedroll farther away from yours. Then someone tells the girl not to share food with you. And one night she comes back to camp crying. She said, "I don't have a real mother." She sobs into your shoulder. Your partner stiffens. You hold her tighter. Then they stand up and walk into the darkness. You hear raised voices. Nothing more. When they return, they're shaking, but not with cold. They won't say it again. They murmur. You don't ask what happened. But the next morning, that other woman leaves early. No goodbyes. No glances back. And the whispers fade again, like smoke after rain. Quirky tidbit. Some scholars believe that prehistoric conflicts weren't always settled with violence, but with quiet exile. Those who disrupted the harmony of the group might simply be encouraged to leave, to go find another fire. It's the prehistoric version of unfriending, less dramatic, more permanent. You worry that this is the beginning of the end, that your little trio might need to move on again. But instead, something shifts, not outside, inside. People start treating the girl differently. They give her space, offer her dried fruit, invite her to help with tanning hides, not out of pity, out of respect, you're not sure. But when one of the elders places a wreath of woven reeds around her head during the harvest festival, and the others clap and cheer, your throat closes. Not from fear, from joy. Because even here, even now, love has roots. It grows quietly, awkwardly, but it grows. You lean into your partner and whisper, "We might survive this after all." They nod, more than survive. The girl dances in circles, arms outstretched, her laugh bright and high. You still sleep at the edge of the camp, but the edges feel softer now. Historians still argue whether prehistoric society was truly egalitarian. Some camps clearly had leaders, some graves had better goods. But emotional authority, that may have come from something else entirely, like who could calm a child or keep a fire lit or teach others how to hold love in both hands without dropping it. You start teaching the girl how to make nets. She's terrible at first, but determined. She sticks her tongue out when she concentrates, just like your partner does. And when the net finally holds together, she insists on using it that very night. You catch 2 fish. She names them both Bob. You eat them anyway. Later, by the fire, she curls into your side and whispers, "You smell like smoke." You grin. So do you. She snorts. And then she's asleep. You and your partner stay up a little longer, watching embers, listening to the soft snore of someone small and safe. No one bothers you now, not because they approve, but because you've lasted. And in a world where so little lasts, that's enough. Winter arrives without warning. One day it's mild, the wind barely tugging at your hair, and the next it punches in through the trees like it's been waiting just outside your rib cage. You wake to a world covered in white. The air bites. Every sound feels muffled, like the earth is holding its breath. And so, you do the same. You, your partner, and the girl bundle together each night like animals' limbs overlapping, breath steaming in the cold air. You sleep with her feet pressed against your stomach because she always kicks off the furs. Your partner murmurs soft songs into her hair, something about wolves and moons. You forget the words. The melody stays. During the day, everyone becomes more careful. Steps measured, voices low, food counted. The forest doesn't offer much now, and even the river feels slower, reluctant. You build a windbreak with sticks and hides, then line it with dried grass. It doesn't look like much, but inside it's a fortress. You teach the girl to tuck her furs under her legs so the heat doesn't escape. She teaches you how to whistle between her teeth. You're terrible at it. She's delighted by that. Sometimes you forget how old she is. Old enough to help scrape hides, too young to do it well, old enough to understand hunger, too young to hide how it makes her angry. She snaps at your partner one morning over nothing, then bursts into tears. You pull her into your lap, but she twists away. You know that look. It's not about fish or furs. It's about being scared and cold and not having control. So you let her feel it. You tell her, "You can be mad. Just don't stop hugging us." She sniffles, then crawls under your arm without a word. Mainstream historical fact in times of resource scarcity. Prehistoric humans relied heavily on emotional bonds to maintain cooperation. Family units, whether biological or chosen, were the emotional glue that helped groups survive lean months. Children were often cared for, communally, and warmth, both physical and social, became as vital as food. The days shorten. The sky bruises early, turns dark by late afternoon. The snow grows crusty, then slushy, then crusty again. The forest paths vanish beneath it. You stay close to camp. Nets don't work in the ice. So you carve instead. Little animals, fish, deer, owls. You give one to the girl each morning. Sometimes she names them. Sometimes she uses them to tell stories, complete with voices and dramatic falls into imaginary rivers. You laugh more than you should, given how hungry you are, because laughter costs nothing and gives you everything. Quirky tidbit. In some prehistoric settlements, archaeologists have found carvings of animals far more detailed than practical tools, some no larger than a child's palm. While their exact use is debated, many scholars believe these were toys or storytelling aids, early evidence of play and imagination, even in the harshest times. Others argue they were ritual offerings, but maybe they were both. Maybe play was a form of prayer. You start to worry about your partner. They've gotten quieter. They don't complain, but their hands shake. They give the girl the biggest portion at every meal. You try to object gently. They glare. You stop objecting. But later, after the girl sleeps, you press a dried strip of meat into their palm. "Eat this," you whisper. They do. Slowly. But they smile. You wrap your arms around them. Hold them tighter than you have in weeks. Historians still argue whether prehistoric partnerships were bound by exclusivity or flexibility. But what seems consistent is loyalty, not in the way of formal vows or jealousy, but in actions sharing food, shelter, effort, risk. Some scholars suggest that loyalty, more than love or even sex, was the key ingredient in long-term pair bonds. Then one morning, everything changes. You wake up to birdsong, not just one, many, the kind that ripples through the trees like gossip. You sit up so fast, you knock snow off the firs. The girl is already outside, barefoot. You yank her back in with a yelp. Too cold. She shrugs. It's spring. She says it like it's a fact, like she invented it. Your partner laughs, really laughs. For the first time in weeks, the thaw begins slowly. Drips, patches of earth, a new smell, wet dirt mold, promise. You venture out more, set new snares, find green shoots pushing through the crust. Everything feels tender, like a bruise healing. And then, just like last year, it's time to move again, but this time you don't split. The whole clan moves together, and you realize something. They stopped questioning you. Somewhere between the frost and the fish carvings, your little trio became something solid. You walk beside the girl and your partner, and no one calls it strange. You reach the new camp. You stake your space. And that night, under the stars, she climbs into your lap, curls like she always did, and whispers, "We made it." You nod. But what you mean is, you always belonged here. Because love like this, quiet, strange, stubborn, always finds its place. Even in the coldest winters, even in the most primitive of times, even when no one expects it, especially then. The days stretch longer now. The sun hangs in the sky like it's gotten lazy, refusing to dip behind the trees until well after you've finished dinner. If you can call a few roasted roots and a sliver of smoked meat dinner. Still the light is back, and with it comes energy. The girl wakes before the birds. She runs, jumps, climbs, talks, constantly. You suspect she's trying to make up for every minute lost to winter. You can't keep up. You don't try to. You let her run ahead, her feet thudding across damp earth, leaving little crescents in the mud. Your partner watches too, shading their eyes with a hand smiling in that soft way that says, "We didn't ruin her." Because you didn't. Despite the hunger, the whispers, the cold, you didn't break her. If anything, she's stronger. She threads nets, now real ones. She helps carry wood. She can spot a squirrel before you can. And if you're being honest, her fish stories are getting dangerously close to being good. You still make fun of them, of course, especially the one about catching a trout with nothing but a stick and a sneeze. But part of you believes her, because she's part of this world now, entirely. And so are you. Mainstream historical fact, while many imagine prehistoric children as passive bystanders in survival, archaeological evidence suggests they were deeply involved in the community. From tool production to hunting preparation, even small children contributed meaningful labor. Toys, miniature tools, and even grave sites show a deep integration of children into social and spiritual life. One day, the girl finds something. She brings it to you, cupped in both hands, face full of awe. A shell, pale blue ridged clearly from the sea, which is hundreds of walking days away. You blink. Where did you? She points to the roots of a tree. You dig together, find two more. Your partner joins you. 3 people in the dirt, laughing, covered in moss. They're trade items. You know that immediately. From one of the southern paths, maybe dropped, maybe placed. You string the best one into a necklace for her. She wears it like a crown, and suddenly she's a story in the making. Quirky tidbit archaeologists have uncovered prehistoric shell beads far inland in places where no natural marine sources exist. These trade artifacts likely traveled hundreds of miles, passed hand to hand across generations, suggesting networks of connection and gift-giving that far outpaced simple survival. That night, someone asks if she's your daughter. They don't say it with suspicion this time. They just ask. You pause. Your partner answers first, yes. The questioner nods, and the conversation turns to mushrooms. Just like that. Not dramatic, not a proclamation, just recognition. Later by the fire, you whisper, "Do you think she knows?" Your partner raises a brow, knows what you hesitate, that she wasn't born from us. They consider that, then shake their head. "I think she knows she's ours." That's enough. You fall quiet, because it is. She falls asleep with her necklace tangled in her hair. You don't fix it. It suits her that way, half wild, half royal. The next morning she insists on leading the walk to the river. Your partner pretends to protest. You follow. You pass the same crooked tree, the same stone with the moss that looks like an old man's beard. But it all feels different now. Lighter. You reach the river, and she gasps loud and delighted. Because the frogs are back. And this time she catches one, holds it up like a trophy, names it Bob 2. You all agree it's an improvement on the original. Historians still argue whether prehistoric names held symbolic meaning or were simply descriptive. Without written language, we can't know for sure. But personal identity, marked by beads, tattoos, scars, or styles of dress, was deeply important. Even young children were given distinct adornments. Your girl's necklace, a name in its own way, a wordless declaration, I belong. That night she falls asleep, telling the frog about your worst fish joke. You don't argue with her version of it. You do elbow your partner and whisper, it was a better joke when I told it. They smirk. You just think that because she laughed. You grin in the dark. Because laughter is how stories grow legs. And your story, however strange, has become legend. You, the partner with the uneven braids, the girl who caught frogs and hearts, the trio that wasn't supposed to survive winter or gossip or separation, but did. You close your eyes. Listen to the wind move through the trees like a lullaby, and think this is what history forgets. Not the weapons, not the migrations, but the evenings like this. 3 people warm, a fire still burning, a shell that crossed a continent, and a frog named Bob 2. Spring rolls forward sloppy and uneven. One day it rains, like the sky's been holding it in for a year. The next day, sunlight spills across everything like melted honey. You spend a lot of time squinting at clouds trying to guess what the sky is about to do. You're always wrong. That's just how spring works. The camp changes too. People build new structures, lean-tos, thatched frames, raised drying racks for meat and fish. Someone even carves a bench into a fallen log, and it becomes the new spot for gossip, naps, and emergency frog rescues. The girl's hair is longer now, always full of leaves. She refuses to let you braid it, says it gives her headaches. You suspect she just likes the chaos. She spends her mornings with a boy from the Eastern kin group. He shows her how to track deer prints. She shows him how to whistle through her thumbs. The result is endless, high-pitched shrieking that sends every bird within a mile fleeing for its life. Your partner pretends to be annoyed, but you can see the pride behind the eye roll. She's going to be the loudest elder in the forest. One day, you say. Good, they reply. This forest could use more noise. Mainstream historical fact. In many prehistoric societies, childhood wasn't just a passive phase. It was formative for the group as much as the individual. Children were not sequestered or hidden away. They were taught, observed, and often mimicked. Through this, they inherited not only skills, but also social roles, belief systems, and interpersonal rhythms. The boy she follows around has a necklace made of claws. She asks about it once, and he tells her quietly that his father died hunting the animal. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside him close, but not touching. Later, she gives him one of her carvings, a fish with the tail chipped. You watch from a distance, pretending not to. It feels like standing at the edge of a lake and seeing your reflection change. She's not a child forever, and you knew that. Still, it tugs at you. The way she leans into others now, the way she tries to listen more than she talks, the way she doesn't need you to hold her hand to cross the stream anymore. You talk to your partner about it. They laugh. She's turning into someone dangerous. You nod. Not in the bad way. In the unstoppable way. Quirky tidbit. Some burial sites have revealed adolescents interred with objects usually reserved for adults, tools, beads, ceremonial items. This suggests that certain young people were not only seen as mature earlier, but possibly held roles of spiritual or social significance. Puberty wasn't a transition, it was an arrival. The girl still sleeps near you most nights, but sometimes she drifts over to a cousin's shelter or stays up with the elders, listening to stories. You miss her, but only a little, because now you watch her become. She learns to cook flat cakes over fire. They're terrible. Charcoal on one side, mush on the other. You eat 3, anyway. You tell her, "Best I've had all season." She beams. Your partner smirks into their bowl. You know the truth. She does too. But that's the point. Some lies are love in disguise. The camp starts preparing for the summer gathering. This time you'll go. Last year you were too new, too uncertain. Now they ask if you want to lead the Eastern Path team. You blink, then say yes. The girl claps, your partner elbows you. We're getting old, you agree. But it doesn't feel bad. It feels like stone warming in sunlight. Historians still argue whether prehistoric leadership was formal or fluid. While some communities had clearly designated roles, others seem to have used rotating responsibility based on age, skill, or circumstance. Being asked to lead wasn't always about status. It was about trust, earned slowly, given freely. You set out 2 days before the others. The girl wants to come, you say no. She pouts for 12 hours, then sneaks a rabbit into your pack before you leave. You find it halfway to the river, roasted, wrapped in leaves, still warm. You eat it, sitting on a boulder, the scent of pine thick in your nose, and you cry a little, just a little. No one's there to see it, so it doesn't count. When you return, the camp is already packing. The girl has drawn chalky shapes on your sleeping mat. Symbols, swirls, maybe a map, maybe nonsense. You don't clean it. You sleep on it that night, careful not to smudge anything, because even nonsense matters when it's drawn by someone you love. And maybe it's not nonsense. Maybe it's her history, a record of how she loved, waited, grew. You too. The gathering place is farther than you remember. Your feet ache before the second sunrise. The girl complains constantly, not about the walking, but about not being allowed to lead the group. You remind her she still gets lost between the cook fire and the fish racks. She scowls. Your partner laughs. You catch glimpses of other clans along the way. Smoke in the distance. Bark-painted poles near streams. You don't stop, but you nod when you pass them. Sometimes you trade dried berries for smoked eel flint, for thread, a story for a song. The girl learns quickly to haggle. At one point, she somehow trades 2 old rabbit bones for a full pouch of pine nuts. You ask how. She winks. Charm, she says. You suspect the other trader just liked her frog necklace. Still, you're impressed. She's starting to remind you of your grandmother. That same sly tilt of the head, that same unshakable sense that everything will somehow go her way. You arrive at the gathering place on the 5th day. It's a wide open field near a river bend, shaded by trees, so old their roots stretch like veins through the earth. People are already there, dozens of shelters set up, smoke rising, laughter carrying across the water. And here's the strange part. You're not nervous. Not like last time. Not like when people stared and whispered and avoided your eyes. This time, someone calls your name before you've even dropped your pack. This time, they're glad you came. Mainstream historical fact, many prehistoric cultures had seasonal gatherings, often coinciding with food abundance or astronomical events. These were moments of trade celebration, matchmaking, storytelling, and alliance building. Evidence suggests that these events helped maintain interclan peace and cultural cohesion across large regions. You set up your shelter quickly, with the girl insisting she knows how to lash the poles. She doesn't. They fall. Twice. She nearly takes out a neighbor with one. You laugh so hard you nearly pull a muscle. She pretends to be furious. She's not. The neighbor gives her a flower braid and says, "Nice aim." It's chaotic, joyful, loud. The girl thrives in it. She's off constantly, learning dances, collecting feathers, watching wood carvers. You spot her laughing with kids from 3 different clans. She wears a different bead bracelet every hour. You don't know where they're coming from. You suspect she's trading secrets again. You don't mind. Your partner joins the drum circle in the evenings. They're terrible at rhythm. No one cares. Everyone dances anyway. You sit back and watch. And for the first time in your life, you feel safe. Not in the no danger way. There are still wild animals, missteps, sharp tools, but in the they'd protect us kind of way. You've become part of the web, tied in with knots and songs and shared meals. Quirky tidbit. Some sites show evidence of prehistoric social games, carved pieces, marked stones, even what look like musical competition tools. While we often picture these gatherings as solemn or ritualistic, it's likely they were also playful. Games, laughter, and physical feats may have been as important to bonding as trade and ceremony. On the 3rd night, a storm rolls in. You all cram under your shelter. Too many bodies, too little space. The wind howls like it's trying to be heard over your laughter. You end up curled between your partner and the girl. She's telling a ghost story. It makes no sense. There's a haunted squirrel, a magical fish, and a talking cloud named Melvin. You listen anyway. You jump when she yells, "Boo!" Your partner snorts. You flinch. She wins. She always wins. In the morning, everything is soaked. The camp smells like wet fur and gratitude. You dry out by a shared fire, passing around meat strips and honey-dipped roots. Someone plays a reed flute. Someone else tells a story in 3 languages. No one understands it fully, but everyone claps. Historians still argue whether inter-clan gatherings were primarily economic, religious, or social. But what's clear is that they were deeply human events, full of food, music, conflict, romance, memory. In a world with no books or maps, these gatherings were how you kept the story going. That night, as the fires die down, the girl curls into your lap without asking. She's taller now, heavier, but still fits somehow. She whispers, "I want to come back next year." You say, "We will." She adds, "Even if I'm old." You kiss the top of her head, especially then. You look across the fire at your partner. They smile. That small, private smile that says, "This is real. This is good." And for once, you don't feel like you're carrying anything. You just are. Part of the circle, part of the song. No one needs to ask any more if she's yours. No one needs to wonder if you belong. Because you do. And you always have. Even if it took the worst season of your life to find out. Even if it started with a loss you didn't think you'd survive. You watch the fire flicker and feel the warmth in your chest. And you think, this is what love does. It grows in silence, in laughter, in rainstorms and fish jokes. It builds homes from scraps and shelters from rumors. It turns strangers into partners and orphans into daughters. You wake before the sun the next morning, not out of habit, but because of the quiet. The girl is still asleep, curled like a comma beneath your fur wrap. Your partner is already gone, probably at the river, washing off the last of last night's smoke. You sit for a while, watching the sky pale at the edges, the soft, slow breath of the girl, the still steaming grasses just beyond the shelter. The gathering is starting to wind down. People move slower. There's more sitting, less singing. Some of the shelters have already come down. Traders pack their bundles carefully, making sure not to crumple herbs or crush their carved beads. The air smells like damp earth and roasted acorns. You wander the camp, greet a few faces, exchange a nod with a woman who gave you a charm years ago, back when no one remembered your name. Now she smiles like she's known you forever. Maybe she has. By mid-morning, the girl is up and off again. This time with the boy from the east, the one she traded the chipped fish to. They vanish into the woods. You almost chase after them, then think better of it. She's smart. He's careful. And besides, you trust her now in a way you never could before. Your partner finds you sitting on a log, staring into a bowl of crushed berries. You're pretending is breakfast. They'll come back, they say, sitting beside you. I know you reply, and mean it. Mainstream historical fact despite popular imagery. Prehistoric social systems were not entirely patriarchal or anarchic. Many anthropologists argue for fluid, adaptable kinship systems where family was defined not just by blood, but by commitment, care, and shared memory. It wasn't about who gave birth to whom, it was about who stayed. The two return by midday muddy and laughing. The girl's hair is wet. She claims they fell in trying to catch a salamander. The boy insists she pushed him. You suspect they're both telling the truth. You feed them warm grain cakes and pretend not to notice when their fingers brush. It's innocent, new, but it fills you with the strangest feeling. Not jealousy, not worry, just time. Time is moving. You think about your own first love, the awkwardness, the stolen glances, the way your palms used to sweat like you'd been climbing trees. You never told anyone about it. There wasn't space back then for softness like that. But you remember. And it helps now. Quirky tidbit. There's growing archaeological speculation that many prehistoric societies celebrated young love not with strict contracts or parental control, but with symbolic gestures, shared necklaces, painted hands, secret songs. Love wasn't always taboo. Sometimes it was just part of becoming real. That night, the girl asks if she can sleep outside. You hesitate. Your partner nods. Let her try. So she does beneath the stars, with nothing but a blanket and a frog charm for company. You don't sleep much. You check on her 3 times. But she's fine. More than fine. She's glowing by morning. Says the stars whispered. Says the wind sang. Says she dreamed of flying. You believe her. Because the truth is, you've changed too. You're softer now. Not weak. Just wide open. You used to guard every feeling like it might be stolen. Now you offer them freely. To the girl, to your partner, to the people who once doubted you and now wave when they see you. Historians still argue whether prehistoric dreams were seen as personal symbols or community messages. Some societies treated dreamers as seers. Others thought dreams were just shadows of daily life. But there's no question they mattered. Stories from sleep were stitched into morning rituals like thread through leather. Packing day comes. The girl sulks, dragging her feet, refusing to help roll up the mats. Your partner bribes her with a feather. You offer to race her to the river and back. She wins, of course. She always does. And then it's time. You stand at the edge of the gathering field, looking back. Smoke curls from the last fires. Songs echo like memories already fading. You feel the weight of a full season behind you. And in front, a path. Worn, familiar waiting. You start walking. The girl runs ahead. Your partner hums something tuneless, but lovely. And you think maybe this is how stories end. Not with a bang or a twist, but with people returning home slightly different than when they left. You step around a fallen branch and reach for the girl's hand. She doesn't notice. She's too busy singing to the frog charm, so you let her go, because love, real love, means letting go without disappearing. It means watching someone become more themselves without needing to hold them still. It means walking behind them, beside them, ahead of them, whatever they need. And right now, she needs to run. So you walk slower, let the wind carry her voice, and you smile, because she's yours, not by blood, by choice. The journey back is quieter, not in a bad way, just settled, like the world took a deep breath and is now letting it out slowly through the rustle of trees and the soft squelch of damp moss underfoot. The girl still talks, but less. She hums more than anything now. Little tunes with no real melody, just gentle nonsense that drifts between the trees like smoke. You walk with your partner most days, not saying much, just walking, step after step. The silence between you is comfortable now, like an old cloak, warm worn just right. The girl spends time near the back of the group, walking beside one of the elders, asking questions, listening. Sometimes they hold hands. Other times she walks with her arms outstretched, balancing on logs like a bird on a breeze. You watch her and think this is what growing up looks like. No announcement, no ceremony, just space, time, and 100 little steps forward. Mainstream historical fact, while some ancient societies marked coming of age with public rituals, many did not. Instead, growth was woven into daily life, more a slow unfolding than a single spark. People became adults by doing adult things, bit by bit often, without fanfare. Your partner finds you staring off into the trees one evening. They sit beside you, hand brushing yours. You okay? You nod, just remembering. They lean against your shoulder. Anything worth sharing. You think about it, about your first trip through these woods, about being afraid of everything, about the girl then just a stranger crying into your cloak, about the whispers, the sideways glances, the heavy ache of being unsure if you belonged anywhere. You shrug. Not really. They don't press. Later, you find a string of beads tied around your sleeping mat. You don't ask who left them, but you wear them the next morning, and the girl notices. She grins and says, "Took you long enough to accessorize." Quirky tidbit. Some of the oldest known decorative beads made from ostrich eggshells and marine shells date back over 70,000 years. They weren't just for beauty. Many were status markers, trade objects, or memory keepers. In some communities, gifting a bead was like telling a story without speaking. The camp greets you like returning waves. No fanfare, no shouting, just someone handing you a bowl of stew before you even unpack. Just a child running up and saying, "You're back." Just the quiet joy of re-entering a space that kept moving while you were gone but still made room for your return. The girl rushes to the stream to check on her cache of smooth stones. She left them there, hidden in a bark pouch. They're still there, exactly where she tucked them. She sorts them now by color, then by size, then by vibe. You have no idea what that means, but she explains it like it's the most obvious system in the world. You nod and say, "Excellent categorization." She beams. The nights are cooler now. You add another layer of fur to the shelter. The girl insists on sleeping outside again. She wants to hear the leaves talk. You tell her the leaves are probably tired. She says, "So am I." She's asleep before the second star rises. And she snores now. You and your partner pretend not to notice. Historians still argue whether prehistoric camps returned to the same sites year after year or moved entirely with the seasons. Evidence supports both models. What matters is that even nomadic people created places of return. Home wasn't a fixed location. It was wherever the story continued. There's less tension in your chest now, less guarding, more resting. You rise each morning with fewer fears and more purpose. You help with repairs. You teach 2 younger kids how to tie knots that won't slip in the rain. You tell a joke at dinner, and someone laughs so hard they spit out their stew. It's disgusting. It's perfect. The girl brings home a toad, not to eat, just to name. His name is Bramble. He lives in a damp wooden bowl behind the shelter. He escapes constantly. You make her a lid with holes. He still escapes. You pretend not to care. She knows you secretly adore him. That's fine. Some truths don't need hiding. That evening, the 3 of you sit beside the fire. The girl is carving something. Your partner is combing your hair with a bone comb they found at the gathering. You close your eyes. The crackle of flame, the soft scrape of knife against wood, the occasional plop of Bramble leaping into something he shouldn't. You think this could be the rest of your life, and you wouldn't change a thing, not even the rain, not even the frogs. Morning again. The girl is up first this time, poking you in the ribs with a stick that may or may not be Bramble's latest escape ramp. You grunt, roll over, and immediately regret it. Your back is stiff from yesterday's firewood hauling. She laughs and declares it's elder stretching time, a new tradition she just invented. You glare. You stretch anyway. The camp is starting to settle into its autumn rhythm. Less roaming, more mending. The fish racks are full again, and there's a slow dance of drying herbs above every hearth. You spend the day weaving baskets badly and pretending you don't mind being terrible at it. The girl is better. She always is. She makes one shaped like a snail and insists you use it for storing your flint blades. You do, and now everyone asks why your knife lives in a snail. You say, "Ask my daughter," and feel something strange catch in your throat. It's the first time you've said that word out loud. Mainstream historical fact in many prehistoric societies. Kinship was flexible. Children orphaned or abandoned due to death, exile, or famine were often taken in by extended kin groups or entirely new families who absorbed them without ceremony. Bonds of care often trumped biology. Later, you help a neighbor dig out a root cellar. It's not deep, just a pit lined with stone and roofed with bark and moss, but it's enough to keep the frost from spoiling the root vegetables. Your hands are raw by the time you finish. The girl brings you a damp cloth and hums one of her aimless tunes while dabbing at your blisters. "I'm going to make a book one day," she announces. You look up. "What's a book?" She pauses. "Oh, right. A dream book, with bark pages and string." You nod. "And what will be in it?" "Us." Quirky tidbit. Evidence suggests early humans, sometimes tied together, bark hide or clay tablets to record symbols, numbers, or memories. These proto-books weren't for reading like we do today, but for passing on rituals, lineages, or dreams. That night, the weather turns. You wake to the sound of the girl, whimpering cold and curled like a forgotten root. You pull her close, nestling her between you and your partner, tucking the furs tight around all three of you. Her shivers fade slowly. She whispers, "I thought I was alone again." "You're not," you say. "Not ever." She believes you. You hear it in her breath. The next day she makes a doll from grass and feathers. It has 2 beads for eyes and a red thread smile. She names it Finch. Finch is her new assistant. He must be consulted for all decisions: where to eat, which rock is best for sitting, whether Bramble is misbehaving or simply misunderstood. Your partner plays along beautifully. You threaten to fire Finch. Finch is unfazed. Soon the doll has a blanket, a tiny bow, and what looks suspiciously like a ceremonial hat made from your sock. You say nothing. She's happy. Historians still argue whether dolls and toys in prehistoric times were for play ritual or both. Many small figurines found at dig sites have been interpreted as fertility symbols, but others show wear patterns more consistent with handling, tossing, or cuddling. In other words, children have always made things cuddleable. There's talk of snow soon. You help secure the roof, patch the floor mats, make peace with the fact that your knife will live in a snail basket forever. The girl surprises you with a new charm, 3 stones and a carved stick tied together with a braided cord. "It's for luck," she says, "but you have to wear it near your heart." You thread it through your tunic. Your partner kisses your temple. Everything is still hard. The work never stops. The weather is cruel. The tools are dull. The food is simple. You're often tired. But you're not alone. And that changes everything. You're not hoarding love anymore. You're spending it freely. Even Bramble gets a share. Even Finch. Even your stiff joints and your patched clothes and your memories that ache like old bruises. Because now when the girl runs laughing through the cold with your partner chasing her, you don't think about how fragile it all is. You just think, "I'm here." And that's enough. That's more than enough. The first snow arrives before the girl finishes her winter boots. She squeals when the flakes start to fall, racing barefoot through the camp like some wild forest creature, mouth open to catch every flake. Your partner yells after her to come back and put something on her feet. She ignores both of you. You don't stop her. Some moments are worth the cold toes. The air has that dry, almost electric stillness that only comes with early snow. You smell wood smoke, hear a few startled birds taking off, and taste that first quiet panic that always comes with, winter, will the food be enough? Will the roof hold? Will everyone make it? Still you smile. She's dancing. There's joy here. You've learned to let it in. Mainstream historical fact, contrary to popular belief, prehistoric people in colder regions had sophisticated winter preparation techniques, underground food storage, insulated shelters, layered clothing from animal hides, and group sharing practices to make sure no one starved alone. Survival wasn't luck. It was community strategy. That evening, the fire is surrounded by damp boots and steaming cloaks. You all huddle close bowls of root stew, warming your hands. The girl is wrapped in 3 layers and still manages to have her nose poking out from a fur hood that makes her look like a talking mushroom. She's full of questions tonight. Where did snow come from? What if bramble hibernates forever? What do dreams mean when it's cold? You try to answer, but she's already moved on to planning a sled made of bark and very questionable rope. Your partner hums. You close your eyes. You don't need to follow every word. Her voice is enough. Quirky tidbit. There's evidence that prehistoric children left toys behind in caves, miniature tools, carved animals, even what might have been tiny sleds. Whether they were playthings or ritual offerings is up for debate, but someone small once held them. That much is clear. A week passes. The world turns white. The girl is restless now, cabin-fevered. She stacks stones inside. She makes up dances. She invents a language and insists on teaching it to Bramble, who is both confused and missing. You find him behind a water jug, sleepy and slightly frozen. He's fine. The girl makes him a hat. Your partner weaves. You patch the roof again. Someone 2 shelters over has a baby, and the camp erupts in quiet celebration. A new name is sung into the wind. The girl asks if she'll get a baby sister. You nearly drop the stew. Later, you lie in the dark with your partner giggling like teenagers. You haven't done that in years. Historians still argue whether prehistoric family units were mostly nuclear or community-based. Some digs suggest that multiple generations lived closely together. Others show clusters of unrelated adults raising children as a group. The one constant, no one raised a child alone. The girl makes a map. It's not very accurate, but it's hers. She draws the gathering field, the river, the sharp rock that looks like a wolf, the place she saw the owl. She marks the trail home with a red smear and a tiny drawing of Finch. You help her pin it to the shelter wall with a fishbone. You don't correct the directions. What matters is the memory, not the compass. She points to the map the next day and asks if you'll go back to the gathering next season. You glance at your partner. They nod. You say, if Bramble agrees. She nods solemnly and consults the toad who croaks once. Deal. The snow deepens. You take turns waking up at night to check the fire. Some mornings, your hair smells like ash. You don't care. The girl is warm. She sprawls between you and your partner like a little heat thief. You've never slept better. One morning, she's up before both of you, sitting at the door, whispering. You creep up behind her. What are you doing? Talking to the snow. What's it saying? She thinks. Slow down. You don't know what to say to that. So you sit beside her, quietly. And you do. You slow down. Because the fire will be there. The work can wait. The stew won't burn yet. But this moment, this whispering child and her frost-kissed eyelashes and the soft hush of snow falling on fur, that won't last. You take it in. You make it real. You remember. The last full moon before the melt arrives in eerie silence. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. The snow doesn't crunch tonight, it sighs underfoot, like it's tired of pretending to be winter. The girl builds a moon watcher's nest out of woven reeds and settles into it with Finch, her doll wrapped snug in leftover scraps of fur. She says they're waiting to see the moon blink. You nod solemnly, as if that's a known phenomenon. It's not, but still. You sit with your partner near the fire, your hands curled together inside one sleeve. No words tonight, just the occasional crackle of bark, the faint flutter of steam rising from someone's breath. Your eyes scan the treetops looking for owls. None tonight. Just stars. They're sharp enough to hurt if you stare too long. Mainstream historical fact in some prehistoric cultures, the moon was closely tied to fertility cycles, planting rituals, and even social gatherings. Certain full moons marked important transitions, especially for children entering adolescence or communities preparing to migrate. The girl eventually dozes off in her nest. Finch tips sideways. You scoop them both up and carry them into the shelter. She doesn't wake, but mumbles something about Bramble needing mittens. It's been nearly a full cycle since you found her, since the river, since the cracked lip and the bruised ribs, and the way she didn't speak for 2 whole days. You think about how carefully you and your partner chose your first words to her, how long you waited for her to smile, and how now suddenly it's hard to get her to stop. That's how healing works, quietly, then all at once. The next morning, she's drawing again, but not maps this time. People, stick figures sure, but detailed ones. You, your partner, Finch, Bramble, the stew pot, the shelter, the moon nest. Each figure labeled in her new alphabet, half symbols, half guesswork. At the top, one word, family. Quirky tidbit. In the Chauvet and Lascaux caves, ancient artists not only painted animals, but possibly themselves, hand stencils, figures, with human features, and scenes that may have included family-like groupings. Some anthropologists believe these weren't just art, but narrative memory stories told through paint and dust. That afternoon you walk to the edge of camp together. It's warm enough now that the snow squeaks when you step, and the girl peels off her outer layer by the time you reach the ridge. The trees look different from here, less like guards, more like guides, like they're pointing somewhere. You watch her turn slowly in a circle, then point toward the south. That way. You blink. For what? She shrugs. For later. Your partner chuckles. She's making plans. You nod. A dangerous habit. But you're already turning in your mind, wondering what lies past those trees, what fields or rivers or other stories might be waiting, and whether you'll be brave enough to follow her. Historians still argue whether prehistoric migrations were driven more by climate shifts or by curiosity. Some routes were clearly practical, seeking game water shelter, but other trails, they lead somewhere just because someone decided to go, not out of need, but out of wonder. That evening, she insists on making dinner. It's mostly roots, slightly overboiled. Bramble contributes nothing, but you eat it all. You say it's perfect. Your partner pretends to swoon. The girl grins like she invented flavor. The fire burns low. She falls asleep with her hand on your shoulder. You don't move for a long time, not because you're afraid to wake her, but because you want to stay exactly here, where everything is finally still. The fire is down to embers now. No more sharp cracks, just the lazy hiss of sap burning out and the slow stretch of glowing wood sinking into ash. Outside, the snow has softened into slush, barely clinging to the roots. You can hear the gentle drip of meltwater, like the earth is exhaling, like it's tired of holding so much cold. The girl mumbles something in her sleep. Finch slides from her arms and lands face down in the furs, limbs askew, bead eyes shining faintly in the dim light. You reach over and place him upright again, just in case he cares. Your partner shifts beside you. Their breathing slows. You match it unconsciously. In, out. Everything feels slower now. The wind outside doesn't howl. It hums. A background note in a lullaby older than language. You close your eyes. You think about the river, the bruises, the quiet, the first laugh, the snail-shaped basket, the moon nest, the stew she made that no one dared criticize. You think about her hands cold and small, slipping into yours that first night, and how they're warmer now, bigger, stronger, loved. You're not afraid of tomorrow, not because it'll be easy, but because it'll be shared. And when the wind shifts again, and the moon rises, and someone stirs the fire back to life, you'll be ready. You'll carry her story, and yours, and the quiet spaces in between, where love makes a home. You breathe out. Sleep takes you, softly, completely, like falling into something safe.